Right, good morning everyone. My name is Ilse Stickling. I'm the presenter for this session. I'm also the subject specialist for history at Blumenbach. I just want to find out, can all of you hear me? Can you just please, there is a button where you can just put up your hands. Can you just please put up your hands if you can all hear me? Okay, then I'm just going to give 2 minutes so that we can just see if there are other attendees also coming. So then we will just start after 2 minutes. Okay, I think we can start now. I hope you can all hear me. Right, my name is Ilse Stickling. I'm the education specialist for history. And then we are going to do a presentation today on pseudoscience in the late 1800s as well as the early 1900s. But before we begin this webinar, there are just some basics that you need to know. If you are struggling to hear me, please make sure that your audio is on and that your speaker volume is turned up. During the session, you will automatically be muted when joining the session. Then if you have any questions, this is going to be a long session, so please, I would suggest that on the right-hand side, you will see that there's questions. Go to the question box and then just please type in your question in the question box so that we can later extract the questions and then give you proper answers to these questions. Right, on the right-hand side of your screen, you will also see handouts where you can download the presentation. I'm also now and then going to switch over to explain some concepts in Afrikaans for the Afrikaans learners attending. Then for the Afrikaans learners attending, we still do not have the webinar notes or the presentation available in Afrikaans, but we will explain some of the concepts to you in Afrikaans. And we will make sure that in future the presentations are also available in Afrikaans for your use. Hi, then people, please remember to send us your questions. Right, during the session, you might also hear the voice of the organizer, Surina Jordan. So if we experience any technical issues or something comes up or so forth, you might hear another voice besides my own, and that will then be the voice of my colleague, Surina. Right, is everyone ready to start? Can we start? Right, we're going to start with pseudoscience, scientific ideas of race. In Afrikaans praat ons van pseudowetenskaplike idees van ras. Now, a lot of people don't know that society during the early 19th, during the late 19th century as well as the 20th century was influenced by a lot of scientific research based on race. And that is why you would see tendencies throughout the world of racism. Now, supposedly many of these theories were based on scientific research. Some governments during this time took them very seriously. And then governments made laws that unfairly discriminated against inferior people who were not the ideal race based on the scientific research. If we can just look at some case studies examples. The first one there is Nazi Germany. Now we all know that Adolf Hitler wanted to create a superior German race called the Aryan race or the master race. Now obviously this would comprise of typical blonde Germans with blue eyes, tall people, well-built, strong, healthy people in German society. They felt that these people would be the superior people to inhabit the earth. In South Africa, we could also see race policies being implemented by the keeping different races apart in South Africa. And then also Australia is another example where a massacre took place of Aborigine people, and they were seen as or regarded as inferior. But not only these three countries, we could see that in other places around the world as well, like the United States of America. We would also see the time of separation in America between different races. So gevalle studie voorbeelde waarna ons kan kyk is Nazi-Duitsland. Onthou dat in Nazi-Duitsland wou Hitler 'n Ariese ras geskep het en dit het behels blonde Duitsers met blou oë, maar dat hulle ook lank was en dat hulle sterk gebou was en dat hulle gesond was en dat hulle sodoende 'n positiewe bydrae kon lewer tot die samelewing. Nog 'n voorbeeld waarna ons kan kyk is apartheid Suid-Afrika, waar verskillende rasse apart van mekaar moes gehou word en dat rasse apart van mekaar moes ontwikkel. En dan ook in Australië kan ons sien dat daar 'n massamoord was van Aborigine mense. En nie net hierdie drie voorbeelde nie, ons kan kyk na die voorbeeld van die Verenigde State van Amerika ook, waar hulle byvoorbeeld segregasie toegepas het. So in die laat 1800s, vroeë 1900s het hierdie 'n modeneiging geword ten opsigte daarvan om rasteorieë te ontwikkel sodat daar wettig teen mense gediskrimineer kon word in die gemeenskap. So therefore, in the late 1800s and the early 1900s, there were policies being developed around pseudoscience, science based on race. In other words, they tried to prove that some races are more superior than other races. Sommige rasgroepe is meerderwaardig teenoor ander rassegroepe. And this would then have a huge influence on the world politics in the late 1800s and the early 1900s as such. Right, on the next slide, white people was seen as superior. So in the 19th century, that is the 1800s, remember the year count is also always one below the century. Many Europeans, Australians, and Americans became obsessed with the idea of race and classifying society into different racial groups. Goed, so vir die Afrikaanse mense in die 19de eeu, dis die 1800s, onthou jou jaartal is altyd een minder as die eeu wat aangedui word, het baie Europeërs, Australiërs, sowel as Amerikaners obsessief begin raak oor die idee van 'n ras. En hulle wou dan die bevolking klassifiseer in verskillende rasgroepe. Now remember again, this was being implemented in many countries throughout the world, and this became the modern idea of trying to identify superiority within countries that could lead the politics within those countries. They believed that white people were superior. In Nazi Germany again, they went even further during the 20th century to try and create a master race based on certain characteristics. They had to be tall, they had to be blonde, they had to have a strong build. In other words, they had to be healthy and they had to have blue eyes. They would also kill their own inferior white people, for example, people with disabilities, because these people will only be a burden on society. Goed, in Afrikaans, baie mense het geglo dat gedurende hierdie tyd dat wit mense meerderwaardig was. In Nazi-Duitsland weer eens het hulle so ver gegaan in die 20ste eeu onder Adolf Hitler om 'n meesterras te probeer kweek met sekere karaktereienskappe. Met ander woorde, hulle moes lank gewees het, hulle moes blonde hare gehad het, hulle moes sterk gebou gewees het, hulle moes blou oë gehad het. So hulle moes effektief kon bydra tot die gemeenskap of tot die bevolking. En wat ook nogal hartseer is, dat hulle hulle eie minderwaardige wit mense ook doodgemaak het, soos mense wat gebreke gehad het, dat hulle nie waardig was ten opsigte van die opbou van 'n meesterras nie. Now, this was not a short-term solution to create a master race. It was not something that was going to happen overnight. It was something that needed to be created, and this was one of Adolf Hitler's plans to, in future, create a master race. It will involve a process of a lot of research, of a lot of experiments, and so forth, to create the ideal German white race. Okay. Now, all of these countries tried to justify their beliefs with supposed scientific theories and research. So met almal woorde, hulle het probeer om al hulle navorsing en hulle geloof rondom meerderwaardige rasse te probeer regverdig met hierdie wetenskaplike teorieë en die navorsing wat hulle gedoen het. Goed. Go to the next slide. Scientific racism during the late 18th century and then the 1900s, the late 1800s and the 1900s. Physical differences between people were used to implement discrimination in many countries and to actually make it legal. it was used to justify prejudiced actions. Goed, so fisiese of fisieke verskille tussen mense is gebruik om diskriminasie teen sekere rasgroepe te implementeer in 'n verskeidenheid van lande en om dit sodoende ook wettig te maak. En hulle dit probeer regverdig al hierdie diskriminerende aksies teenoor minderwaardigheidsgroepe. Now, during this time, scientists used scientific racism. In other words, they actually started to create racism. They claimed that the use of scientific methods will help them to develop their theories. And they even went as far as to ignore evidence that contradicted their research. So this became hugely popular during this time. Many countries jumped on the bandwagon of scientific racism to develop their countries into superior nations. So wetenskaplikes het wetenskaplike rasisme gebruik, hulle dit ontwikkel ook, en hierdeur het hulle probeer bewys dat wetenskaplike metodes gebruik is om hulle teorieë te ontwikkel en te bewys. En baie keer as die teenwyse daar was, het hulle dit sommer net geïgnoreer, want dit was 'n hoogmode in daardie tyd om 'n meerderwaardige rassegroep in lande te identifiseer, sodat die lande ongelooflik sterk kan word. En hierso kan ons ook byvoorbeeld dink oor die industriële revolusie. We can also think here about the industrial revolution. Many of the Western countries, the European countries, started to develop themselves during the Industrial Revolution from 1750 to 1850, and they started to see themselves as being superior due to their developments. Due to research, new ideas and so forth. So met ander woorde in die industriële revolusie wat plaasgevind het tussen 1750 en 1850, het baie van die westerse lande begin om hulle self te ontwikkel. En hulle het vooruitgang gemaak ten opsigte van tegnologie en van nuwe idees en allerlei sulke goeders. En hulle het begin dink aan hulle self die weste as meerderwaardig ook. Right, so many of these people during the Industrial Revolution and after the Industrial Revolution start to see themselves as superior due to the technologies that they developed and so forth. And many of these countries wanted to be the superior country, not only the superior people, but to be the superior country as such. Right, now what is scientific racism? Scientific racism is the use of scientific experiments, promoting the idea of different racial groups and a hierarchy of races. So wetenskaplike rasisme behels die gebruik van wetenskaplike eksperimente, bloot om die idee van verskillende rasgroepe en dan te vestig asook 'n hiërargie van verskillende rasgroepe. If we look at certain examples, apartheid South Africa, in apartheid South Africa, colored people were considered as more superior to black people. Indian people were considered more superior to colored people, but all of them were inferior to white people. But South Africa is one of those countries where you can see that there was a class differentiation between different racial groups and the way that they were treated within apartheid South Africa as well. Right. These ideas became extremely popular in the West during the late 19th century and the early 20th century. There you can see it also in the year count, the 1800s to the 1900s. So hierdie idees het baie gewild geword in die Weste gedurende die 19de eeu en die 20ste eeue. En in jaartal verwys ons dan na die 1800s en die 1900s. Right. Again, think of the Industrial Revolution, developments that were made, people constantly in competition with one another, and eventually this would also lead to the First World War, where there were competition between countries of who is the superior country. And it's not only who's the superior in weapon technology and all of those things, but who has the better race, who's the better race within society as well. Okay, one example of pseudoscientific theory is the theory of Johann Blumenbach. Now, Blumenbach was a German scientist who divided humankind into 5 categories in 1795. Right. So 'n voorbeeld waarna ons gaan kyk, en hierdie is ook in die verkenhandboek. As jy die verkenhandboek gebruik, it's in the focus textbook if you are using the focus textbook, the pseudoscientific theory of Johann Blumenbach. Nou, Blumenbach was 'n Duitse wetenskaplike gewees wat die mensdom in 5 kategorieë verdeel het in 1795. Now, in Africa, he referred to the black people as Negroes. In Asia, he referred to the people as Mongolians. In Southeast Asia, he spoke about the Malay people. In the Americas, about the American Indians. And then in Europe, he talked about the Caucasian people. Now, sometimes in television programs such as CSI or so forth, you might hear the words police investigations, might talk of a Caucasian male or something, and this referred to the white people, right? If we look at the Americas, the American Indians, where the word Indian comes from, waar die woord Indiër vandaan kom, Amerikaanse Indiane. Remember that Christopher Columbus tried to sail west to find a new route to the east and then accidentally came across the Americas. And he, for example, thought that he had discovered the east. And that is why he referred to the people as Indians. Of dan Indiane, which directly comes from the word Indian of Indiërs as sulks. So today we will talk about these people as Native Americans. Negroes, we will talk about African Americans, right? Mongolian, Malay, we would talk about Asians. Unfortunately, the word Caucasian also stays in many cases the word Caucasian, but also referring then to white people. Now, Blumenbach believed that the Caucasian group or white people was the most beautiful of all the races, and other races were degenerated groups. This was based on unscientific judgments, but many Western societies regarded this as fact, because in many of these societies, the white man wanted to rule. He wanted to see himself as being the superior race, especially now with the development of various technologies and so forth. You will see that the idea was that they were more superior over considering cultural differences or traditions or so forth. They would focus on developments within Western society to mostly make this distinction and to consider themselves as the superior people. And if you think about this, the Chinese people were even much more advanced than the West many, many years ago. If we think about important discoveries that were made in China and so forth. So this was something, the racism concept was then basically developed during this time to make a distinction between different races based on what people looked like, rather than cultural differences or different traditions being practiced by people, and there's other ways why people are different than just based on what people look like. Now, the explanation of eugenics, eugenetica in Afrikaans, social Darwinism, sosiale Darwinisme. Goed. It was a philosophy developed by an Englishman, Herbert Spencer. Goed. Nou, sosiale Darwinisme was 'n filosofie wat ontwikkel is deur 'n Engelsman met die naam Herbert Spencer. It was an adaptation of Charles Darwin's groundbreaking research on evolution. Now, by now you should all know that Charles Darwin was a scientist in evolution who drew those important pictures of the evolution between apes and men and so forth. But Herbert Spencer now took this research and made it his own by adapting it to different racial groups and to make a distinction thereof. Right. So hierdie hele filosofie van sosiale Darwinisme is gebaseer op die aanpassing van Charles Darwin se belangrike navorsing wat hy gedoen het ten opsigte van evolusie. So hy het dit basies aangepas om meer te fokus op die ras-idee daarvan. Watter mense op die aarde is meerderwaardig? Right. Which people on the earth are more superior? Now, Spencer's theory stated that some human beings were biologically superior to others. It's all about survival of the fittest. Those who were fit were at the top of society, while the weak and the unfit were at the bottom. So Spencer se teorie het gewys of getoon dat sommige mense biologies meerderwaardig is teenoor ander. So met ander woorde, dit was die oorlewing van die sterkes gewees in die samelewing, dat die sterkes in die samelewing gaan op 'n manier domineer. Right. This would also explain why Nazi Germany tried to get rid of people with disabilities, people that were seen as weak or inferior, because this would lead to a degeneration within Nazi population as well, which they did not want. They wanted superior people in the German states. So ons kan hierso ook kyk na Nazi Duitsland. So Nazi Duitsland het besluit om ook ontslae te raak van hulle mense met gebreke, dat dit 'n stok gedraai het basies in die ontwikkeling van 'n meerderwaardige ras binne Duitsland, en dat as hulle nie sou ontslae raak van mense met gebreke of wat ook al nie, dat dit sou gelei het tot die ondergang van die Duitse gemeenskap, waar hulle dit eintlik 'n sterk Duitse bevolking wou maak. Right. It was therefore natural and proper for the strong to thrive at the expense of the weak. The fittest would dominate. So dit was vir hulle 'n baie natuurlike proses, en dit was vir hulle ook deeglik of geskik gewees dat die sterkstes sou oorleef het, en dat hulle dikwels dit sou doen ten spyte van die swakkelinge in die omgewing. So die sterk mense in enige samelewing sou domineer. Want hulle is sterker, volgens hulle is slimmer, hulle is die mooier mense, hulle is die beter mense within a society. Right. They are the most beautiful people in society, they are the strongest, the smartest in society. So therefore, these people would obviously dominate within society. So this is the reason why people should develop societies based on the strongest people. Therefore, social Darwinists developed a hierarchy of human society. Weereens het sosiale Darwiniste wat hierdie teorie gevolg het, 'n hiërargie van menslike gemeenskappe gevolg. Again, some people are more important than other people, mostly based on physical appearances. Now let's look at positive eugenics. Positive eugenics means good in birth. In other words, if you have already good genes, then you should promote those good genes. And you should have as many children as possible to make sure that there are enough of these people in future with good genes. So, positiewe eugenetika beteken goedheid in geboorte. Met ander woorde, jy is met goeie genes gebore, en hierdie goeie genes moet oorgedra word van een geslag na die volgende geslag. En in die toekoms sal dit dan verseker dat jy met 'n baie goeie meerderwaardige ras met goeie genes sit. So the belief it is possible to improve the quality of human and animal species, right? So in other words, you can do more research to promote good genes, that there are experiments that can be done and so forth to try and see how to better humanity or society as such. So daar was ook 'n geloof rondom daar gewees dat die kwaliteit van mense en diere spesies verbeter kon word, dat navorsing en eksperimente kon plaasvind en dat mense 'n beter weergawe van hulle self ook kon word. So the belief that people could be a better version of themselves in future as well. Now, positive eugenics. If you have good or superior inheritable genes, one should reproduce these traits. Weereens, as jy goeie of meerderwaardige oordraagbare genes gehad het, dan moes jy dit vermeerder het. Met ander woorde, weereens in Nazi-Duitsland is mense gepromoveer dat hulle meer kinders het om hierdie genes te laat voortgaan. So there's the example again. In Nazi Germany, people with good physical Aryan traits were encouraged to reproduce, have a lot of children. Now, Nazi Germany would also have a lot of propaganda where they used to promote this, to say that women should stay at home, they should have a lot of children, and they should take care of the families. So if you already have some of these characteristics, if you're tall and you're blonde and you are healthy, that you should reproduce. And this would lead to the growth of an Aryan race within Germany. Right. So in many baie propaganda, plakate en goeders het hierdie ook bemark onder die mense en het probeer bevorder die idee dat as jy al reeds baie van hierdie Ariese karaktereienskappe gehad het, of eienskappe gehad het, dat jy blou oë gehad het, jy was blond gewees, jy was lank gewees, jy was sterk gebou gewees, het hulle dit regtig probeer bevorder dat vroue by die huise bly en dat hulle soveel as moontlik kinders het en kinders groot maak sodat hierdie bevolking kan groei, meerderwaardige bevolking kan groei en dan oor 'n lang tyd ook maar kan lei tot die uitwissing van swakker genes. Okay, again, this was promoted through propaganda. Cruel experiments were done in Nazi Germany on disabled and supposedly inferior people within society. Nazi Germany liked to do research, for example, on twins. They would, for example, put twins simultaneously in tubs full of boiling water to see if the twins would die at the same time, for example. They would sometimes inject ink within the eyes of children to see if it will have an effect on the changing of the eye color and so forth. There was even a female concentration camp called Ravensbrück, where they would make cruel experiments with Jewish women in the concentration camps to see if there is some way that they can make people more superior. Right. So baie wrede eksperimente is gedoen in Nazi-Duitsland, veral op mense met gebreke. Hulle daarvan gehou om op tweelinge eksperimente te doen. Hulle het byvoorbeeld in houers gesit met kookwater en dan het hulle byvoorbeeld gekyk wat se een van die twee sal eers sterf, gaan hulle dieselfde tyd sterf. Hulle het byvoorbeeld ink ingespuit in die oë van mense om te kyk of hulle die oogkleur van mense kan verander. En dan was daar 'n vroue konsentrasiekamp ook geweet, Ravensbrück, waar hulle ongelooflike wrede eksperimente gedoen het op vroue, ook om te kyk of hulle nie op 'n manier die voorkoms van mense kon verander of hulle meerderwaardig kon maak of wat ook al nie. So baie keer het hulle dan hierdie minderwaardige mense gevat en eksperimente op hulle gedoen. Right, so many times they would take these inferior people and they will do experiments on these people. Now let's look at negative eugenics. Negative eugenics would imply people that already have bad genes. Negatiewe eugenika, met ander woorde, hierso word gekyk na mense wat reeds swak genes het en hoe hulle kan keer dat swak genes verder in die gemeenskap versprei. So they actually wanted to stop negative genes from going from one generation to the next going forward in society. So they started to discourage reproduction by people with genetic defects or who were considered to be inferior. So met ander woorde, nou sou hulle in hierdie lande mense gedemotiveer het om nie voort te gaan met voortplanting nie, want as gevolg van hulle swak genes en hulle word nou al klaar gesien as minderwaardig en dit verswak 'n samelewing en dat hierdie oordrag van hierdie swak genes moet stop. Now, how were they going to stop these genes? By asking people not to reproduce anymore, not to have children anymore. So hulle het van hulle verwag dat hulle nie meer kinders mag hê nie, dat hulle met opbou kinders maak, sodat hierdie vordering van swak genes dan ook net kan ophou. The belief was that these people were to reproduce, it would lead to racial degeneration. So daar is baie sterk geglo dat as mense sou aanhou om kinders te hê met hierdie swak genes, dit sou gelei het tot rassedegenerasie. Met ander woorde, hulle sou sit met 'n minderwaardige populasie of 'n bevolking wat swak genes het. So they tried to persuade people not to reproduce anymore because this could lead to weak genes within the following generations. And if they wanted to create superior societies, then obviously this had to stop. Now, some societies in the 20th century promoted sterilization, abortion, and contraception for the unfit races. And many times this was forcefully done. En baie van die bevolkings in die 20ste eeu het hulle gefokus op sterilisasie van vroue. Hulle het gefokus op aborsies, dat as 'n minderwaardige vrou swanger geraak het om die baba te aborteer en dan ook kontrasepsie of voorbehoedmiddels vir almal wat as minderwaardig beskou is, just to make sure that these people do not reproduce the weak genes for future purposes. It needs to stop somewhere for them. Now again, Nazi Germany was a huge supporter of negative eugenics. So they were some of the people that would then sterilize Jewish women, also force them into having abortions when they were pregnant, and obviously sending a lot of young children or children that were not able to work in labor camps to send them into the gas chambers. And this would also ensure the future growth of these people. And sometimes they would do very cruel experiments on unfit children within Nazi German society. So Nazi Duitsland was 'n baie groot ondersteuner gewees van negatiewe eugenika. Met ander woorde, hulle wou baie eksperimente ook gedoen op kindertjies. Hulle het byvoorbeeld baie klein kinders, babas wat nie in werkskampe vir hulle arbeid kon verrig nie, het hulle na die gaskamers toe gestuur. Hulle het ook baie brede eksperimente op baie kinders gedoen, veral ook kinders wat gebreke gehad het, en hulle het sterilisasie toegepas op Joodse vrouens en dan ook aborsies, vroue gedwing om aborsies te ondergaan om ontslae te raak van die babas voordat dit ook 'n toekomstige probleem sal wees wat in die pad sal staan van die Ariese ras. So they try to promote all of this to do away with these bad genes that could stand in the way of developing a master race or an Aryan race. Okay, the next slide, modern understanding of race. Now, modern scientists would say that there is no scientific basis for using the term race to differentiate between people. Okay, so moderne wetenskaplikes sal vir jou sê daar is geen wetenskaplike basis beskikbaar om die term ras te gebruik om tussen mense te onderskei nie. So people do not look the same because of development in their different environments. So modern science would say that there's no such thing as race. Race was a term made up by these people during the late 1800s and the early 1900s, developing these theories on race and discrimination and all of these things, that there are actually other reasons why people look like they look. It's not, there is no such thing as a superior race, having better genes, for example, than other people or so forth, right? That people look the way they look biologically due to environmental circumstances. Reg. So die moderne wetenskaplikes het weer eens gesê dat ras 'n term is wat geontwikkel is deur die mensdom self en veral deur die teorieë in die laat 1800s en die 1900s dat hulle so fokus geplaas het op ras. Mense, hulle voel dat mense biologies anders lyk as gevolg van omgewingsinvloede. Right. So they would say that darker skin color is an adaptation to hot environments. That the skin color actually protects from harsher sun conditions. And that is why in Africa, you will find black skin or darker skin. You would find, especially near the Sahara Desert or where it is extremely hot, that people will have a darker skin tone than other people in cooler parts of the earth, right? That there's some sort of evolution that took place, that people adapt in accordance with the environment and the situations there. Now, they would also say, the modern scientists, that people living in colder climates have shorter, more stout bodies to retain heat and have pale skin as there is less sunlight. So they don't need a darker skin tone to actually prevent sun rays burning their skin or so forth, and that is why they have paler skin in these areas. And some people could go even further and take biblical perspectives. For example, the Tower of Babylon, where confusion started and people started to speak in other languages and so forth, that this would also lead to different cultures originating from there due to the languages and people spreading throughout the world and so forth. So a lot of people, a lot of researchers have different views on how biological differences came to be within society. Right. So baie keer sal wetenskaplikes, moderne wetenskaplikes sê dat jou velkleur is 'n aanpassing by jou omgewing. Dat as jy 'n donker vel het, so swart mense in Afrika, dit is baie warm. As jy nader aan woestyngedeeltes is, byvoorbeeld soos die Sahara woestyn of iets, dan kan dit nog 'n donkerder velsoort wees en goed, en dit is om mense te beskerm teen die warm klimaat en teen die son as sulks, en dat mense in kouer gedeeltes van die wêreld 'n ligter velkleur het, want hulle het nie die skerp sonlig wat hulle velle soms sal stikkend brand of wat ook al nie. Reg. So met ander woorde, jou velkleur word basies aangepas volgens die omgewing waarin jy bly. En dan is daar sommige mense wat dit ook uit 'n Bybelse perspektief sal vat om te sê die toring van Babylon waar mense in verskillende tonge en tale begin praat het en alles, dat dit ook gelei het tot 'n verskillende verspreiding van mense en dat hulle daarvolgens aangepas het in hulle omgewings en so meer. So overall you will find still a lot of theories, a lot of research, a lot of people trying to explain biology and why there are physical differences between people. Now, physical features like skin color, the hair that you have, your facial shape, etc., do not relate to how people think or behave. Because remember in Nazi Germany, as well as in Australia and South Africa and apartheid and so forth, they would say that if you have a dark skin, if you have hair like this, if you have a certain facial shape or so forth, that you actually belong to a superior race. They try to prove this biologically, and modern scientists will say, but this has nothing to do with inferiority. This has nothing to do with the way you think, by the way you act, or so forth in society, that society is more based on cultural differences and traditions and adaptations to environments and so forth, right? So in die verlede het mense gedink dat fisiese eienskappe, byvoorbeeld jou velkleur, jou hare, die vorm van jou gesig en so gemaak het dat jy minderwaardig is. En moderne wetenskappe het die teendeel probeer wys en gesê dat jou fisiese voorkoms het glad nie te doen met die manier waarop jy dink of waarop jy reageer of jou gedrag of wat ook al nie, dat daar eintlik ander invloede is. Dit kan die kulture wees waarin jy groot geword het, dit kan die tradisie wees, dit kan die omgewing wees waarin jy opgegroei het en groot geword het en so aan, maar dat hulle probeer wegdoen van die superiority of white people due to physical appearances, right? Therefore, the concept of human races is not scientific. They feel that it's not scientific to put people into different racial groups, that there are other research that needs to be done. It's an ongoing process, but we are still a society focused a lot on racism, because if you think about the 1900s and so forth, it's actually not that long ago, 100 plus years ago. So many people are still stuck on the beliefs of these scientific theories that were made in the 1800s and the early 1900s as such. And then we can even go further to the time of slavery, for example, if we think about the Industrial Revolution, where slaves were imported from Africa. Now, slaves mostly were imported from Africa because they were strongly built and they had a very good immune system against diseases and so forth. But based on the physical appearance and so forth, they were also discriminated against, right? Now, modern science continue. Modern scientists today would say that there's only one race, and that is the human race. Many people argue that the word race should no longer be used. So in die moderne wetenskappe sal wetenskaplikes praat van daar is net een ras in die wêreld en dit is die menslike ras, en dat die term ras nie meer gebruik moet word nie. Why they say that is that most scientists today argue that there is no such thing as race. The term was developed by theories and not proven fact. So baie wetenskaplikes vandag sal argumenteer en hulle sal sê daar is nie so 'n ding soos ras nie. Dit was 'n term wat ontwikkel is deur teorieë en nie feite wat bewys is nie. Because remember they tried to if the counter facts were there and so forth, they tried to ignore that because that was the world politics that dominated. And many of these researchers were paid a huge amount of money to conduct this research, and not present facts, but present theories that Adolf Hitler, for example, wanted to hear, or governments wanted to hear. Not necessarily proven in fact, but they could say that scientific theories prove the following, not actually prove it by fact, but it will still promote the ideologies that they wanted to persuade. We are all part of one race, the human race, and it's important to note this because as soon as you classify people into different racial groups, that is where evil in society starts. Human rights abuses. So dit is baie belangrik om te besef dat ons die menslike ras is en dat mense probeer wegdoen van die term ras af, want dit het al baie gelei tot mense regte waar dit nie nagekom word nie. This has resulted in cruel behavior towards those regarded as inferior. We have seen that in many historical events. Ons het dit in baie geskiedkundige gebeurtenisse gesien dat baie mense baie wreed behandel is. If we look at the Jews in the concentration camps in Nazi Germany, the way Jews were treated, not only Jews, but homosexual people, if we see about Jehovah's Witnesses and so forth in the concentration camps, just because they had different views and they had different ways they looked and so forth, this had a huge negative impact on society, and this led to people being massacred. This led to people being so ill-treated, and obviously a lot of humiliation of these groups and so forth. So die term ras het baie gelei tot mense mishandeling van mense. As ons kyk na Nazi-Duitsland, Joodse vroue byvoorbeeld in konsentrasiekampe, Jehovah se getuies in konsentrasiekampe. As ons kyk na gay mense in konsentrasiekampe en so aan, dit het nie ingepas by hulle meerderwaardigheidsras nie. En hierdie mense het ongelooflike teenstand gekry van regerings wat dit absoluut gebaseer het net op navorsing en op teorieë wat nie wetenskaplik bewys is nie. En dit het groot probleme in die mensdom as sulks bevorder. This created huge problems within human society by dividing people into different racial groups. Now, between 1990 and 2003, there was actually the Human Genome Project, die Menslike Genoom Project. Now, during this time, the purpose of this research was to find all the genes on every chromosome in the human body and to determine their biochemical nature. Okay. Now, each one of us has a very unique DNA structure. Now, these scientists actually went as far to go and study the DNA of a variety of people to see if they can come up with reason why there are biological differences between people and so forth, just to make it a modern science, but also based on factual content, right? Now, scientists have confirmed that most people's ideas about race are shaped by their cultural and social traditions and not by an understanding of biology, right? Remember, theories versus theories based on facts. Nou, wetenskaplikes het bewys dat meeste mense se idees rondom 'n ras gebaseer is op die manier hoe hulle kultureel groot geword het, op hulle sosiale tradisies, oorvertellings en allerlei sulke goeters, en dat mense eintlik baie min begrip het van menslike biologie, van hoe jou DNA saamgestel is, hoe biologiese chemiese prosesse in die liggaam werk, ensovoorts, en dat mense eintlik gegaan het op dit wat in die geskiedenis gebeur het, hierdie teorieë wat ontwikkel is, dit wat van generasie tot generasie oorgedra is deur mense om te probeer bewys dat een rasgroep minderwaardig is as 'n ander rasgroep. So again, people try to promote these ideas within their different cultures by telling their kids, telling the next generations and so forth, and always making conclusions based on physical appearances or so forth in society, rather than looking at biological facts as stated by science. Now, the Human Genome Project would then suggest that all modern humans have a common ancestor. So die menslike genoomprojek het dan bewys of voorgestel dat alle menslike spesies 'n algemene voorouder het. And this was also taken further to say that the common ancestor was in Africa. Right. Again, this will fit in with the modern scientist views that departing from one place to other places in the world, that over a long period of time, people started to adapt to the various environments. Therefore, the skin color would start to change to help them adapt and so forth within societies. A lot of scientists would also say that is why in the Nordic countries where there's extreme cold weather like Iceland and so forth, you will see a lot of people with very light skin color, with blue eyes, a very light skin tone and so forth. And if you move maybe more to the equator or hotter parts of the earth or so forth, you will see that skin color, eye color and so forth start to darken due to the environment. Okay, let's look at other examples of eugenics. Ons kyk bietjie na ander voorbeelde van eugenetica, right? Now, in the USA, for example, eugenics also became extremely popular in the USA under Charles Davenport. He was a biologist. Now, remember that the United States already saw other groups as being inferior to themselves, mainly because they wanted to prove their superiority due to technology and so forth. If we think about wars with the Native Americans, if we think about wars with the Mexicans, the Aztecs, the Incas, etc., their weapons were much more superior. And this is how they tried to prove superiority. Later on in the 1800s and the 1900s and so forth, they would also use this new scientific research to try and prove superiority of certain races, and as such also the white people in society. So in die Verenigde State van Amerika het eugenetica ook 'n belangrike rol begin speel onder Charles Davenport. Hy was 'n bioloog gewees. En as ons kyk na die geskiedenis van Amerika self ook, sal ons sien dat Amerika oorlog gevoer het met die inheemse bevolkings, met die Mexikane, die Incas, die Aztecs ensovoorts. Hulle het oorwin teenoor daardie groepe, meestal omdat hulle meerderwaardige vuurwapens gehad het. Hulle wapentegnologie was baie meer gevorderd gewees. En nou met behulp van die navorsing wat gedoen is in die 1800s en in die 1900s en goed, het dit ook vir hulle begin die idee skep dat wit mense meerderwaardig is teenoor ander rassegroepe. Right. So obviously this also led to separation of inferior groups in the United States of America. Next year in grade 12 you will do the civil rights movement and the Black Power movement, and there you will see that Black people were also discriminated against. Native Americans were discriminated against. Native Americans had to live in their reserves. Black people were separated from white people in society. And then if you even go back and you think about the American Civil War, where there was actually a war between the North and the South. The North that wanted to become more democratic, the Unionist, as opposed to the South that wanted to remain a racist society because they needed slaves, because in the South you would find a lot of plantations, and they did not want to get rid of the cheap or the fair labor through slavery. So they even broke out a civil war in the United States of America where people were fighting over racial groups and their position in society, right? And this would continue even throughout the 1900s. And still in the world today, in many countries and so forth, you will still see an element of racism that is occurring due to the fact that these theories were not developed that long ago. And people are still in the mode of transferring these ideas from one generation to the next generation. In Australia, Australia was a British colony in 1788. And they started basically this colony by sending a lot of prisoners to this island to be away from normal society. But as the colony started to grow, then obviously they met with the indigenous people of Australia, the Aborigine people, and they started to massacre the Aborigine people. And these people were also considered as being subhuman, primitive, and inferior. And later on in the 1900s and so forth, they would implement a lot of policies that would also discriminate against the Aborigine people as such. So in Australië was 'n Britse kolonie gewees in 1788. Daar was 'n massamoord gewees van Aborigine mense. Hulle is ook maar geag as minderwaardig, as primitief en as inferieur ten opsigte van die blanke mense in Australië. Later aan het hulle ook baie beleide ingebring om verder te diskrimineer teen die Aborigine mense, en dit is om hulle maar net in 'n minderwaardige posisie te probeer hou. In Namibia, for example, Namibia was a German colony called Southwest Africa, Suidwes Afrika, colonial oppression of the Herero people. Daar was ook onderdrukking gewees van die plaaslike Herero mense. Also fights that broke out between the Germans in Southwest Africa and the Herero people, killings of the Herero people and suppressing the Herero people, and at the end also making these people move to other areas. In Suid-Afrika, apartheid is geïmplementeer om rassegroepe van mekaar af apart te hou, weg van mekaar af. So in South Africa, apartheid was being implemented to keep different racial groups apart from one another. So to keep them away from each other to develop on their own. You can think to yourself that there were reserves also given to black people where they should live. They received passes to enter white, so-called white areas. And at a certain time at night, they were not allowed in the cities anymore and so forth, and they had to go back to the areas where they used to live and develop themselves and so forth. But here you can also think that the majority of people were placed in small areas of land and also with the least of resources to develop themselves. So in apartheid Suid-Afrika is swart mense ook geplaas in aparte woonareas en goeders waar hulle self moes onderhou, en baie keer het hierdie baie min hulpbronne ingesluit dat hulle self kon ontwikkel het. En dit is ook maar belangrik om in ag te neem. So all in all, these racial theories were actually practiced in many countries throughout the world. And this led to a lot of historical and political events throughout the world. And this led to a lot of people standing up for human rights abuses in the 1900s. So again, this is why many of us still refer to racial groups, and we still develop and you know, because this was something that was not that long ago and still being practiced going forward. But modern science is trying to change that, to say that there's only one race, and that is the human race, and that there are other reasons for why people look the way they look, and your physical appearances has nothing to do with the way you think. It's more a cultural influence or traditions, the way you grew up, and all of those type of things. And that people should start looking beyond race and start looking as human race as a whole. Right. People, that was my presentation. I hope you enjoyed it. Dit was my voorlegging. Ek hoop julle het daarvan gehou en dat julle min of meer 'n idee het that you got the idea of what pseudoscience was about. Please, if you have any questions, can you please just type them in the question boxes? I will make sure that those questions are being downloaded later on, and then we can give you feedback on all your questions. So for now, I would like all of you to finish up, if you haven't already, with topic 2, with Roosevelt and the New Deal and so forth. That was sent to you last week through notes, that you should be finished with the New Deal and with Roosevelt and all of those things with topic 2. And ideally, you should start already with topic 3 in this term. So julle moet asseblief met onderwerp 3 begin in hierdie kwartaal. So as julle nou nog nie klaar is met onderwerp 2 se content nie, se inhoud nie, dat julle dit so vinnig as moontlik afhandel, dat julle solank in hierdie kwartaal kan fokus op onderwerp 3. Right. So in April, grade 11s, I would like to focus on topic 3. Remember, there are fun alternative ways also to study. You can watch, just Google documentaries, historical documentaries that has to do with pseudoscience and so forth. You will find many of them on the internet. Use them. Use other alternative sources also, just to give you a better understanding of this work. So then later on, we're just going to look at the specific case studies of the Aborigines in Australia, and then Nazi Germany as well. Right. I really hope you enjoyed this presentation. Graad 11 Afrikaanse leerders, ek wil graag hê julle met hierdie kwartaal asseblief my begin met onderwerp 3, sorg dat onderwerp 2 afgehandel is. En ek hoop julle het nou 'n idee van wat die pseudowetenskappe behels het. Dit was 'n inleiding hiertoe gewees. En dan gaan ons later kyk na die gevalle studies van Australië met die Aborigines en dan Nazi-Duitsland as sulks. I hope you thoroughly enjoyed this just as much as I did, and we will then see each other again with the next webinar. I hope you have a wonderful day further. Thank you. Guys, Serena?